Welcome back to the Tuesday weekend. This week we are talking about good coworkers and the real advantage that your team has when you have a quality person in each position. Where I think we're going to break these up between front and back of house just for a little ease of use here. So, front of house, well, let's start with the first person you see, the host stand. So, Nick, what is the advantage of having a quality person at the host stand?
Well, the advantage of having a really good host you can work with, who you get along with, is night and day compared to not even a bad host, but just an average host. I've worked with some of the best around. I worked at a restaurant that actually had their hosts on salary. They weren't hourly. They were paid a substantial amount of money, and they were great. I mean, they did well with the timing. They knew when to hold things up when the restaurant got a little busy and, you had to kind of catch up. They weren't going to just slam the whole restaurant all at once. They were also very good with talking to people and knowing the server stations and the servers in those stations, and kind of sitting the people who really would dig their personality and have a much better time. Some people don't like to have a flamboyant, always talking, storytelling server, like me, maybe. They like a quieter server, etc. The bachelorette party is going to get a guy to wait on them. The bachelor party is going to get a girl to wait on them. The 5 businessmen in from Texas are going to get this server, and the 3 women in on their women's night out are going to get this server. They could read the crowd and seat them properly. They set them in time. They were doing the 15, whatever your number in your restaurant was there. I think back then, the one restaurant I was in was, they could seat, it was like 14 for every half hour, just because smaller kitchen and everything. And, when you get to the point where the grill's not big enough for the food you've ordered, you're behind. But they would do that, and they would do it every night, and they would do it with a smile on their face, and it was fun to talk to them. And they would always let you know, hey, I've got this. After this, you've got a 6 coming. They would let you were prepared for whatever was coming up. Once in a while, just because of how the flow of the restaurant goes, they're like, okay, I'm going to have to triple seat you. You're the only tables open. So I've got the bussers, who will be next. They've already got the water and stuff and bread set for those tables. So when I do that, you're getting this one first, then this one, then this one. So do your thing, do your timing thing, but they're all going to be within 5 minutes of each other. And that communication, just letting you know, is great. I mean, it's always nice to go in, and it's fair to everyone. The covers are all pretty much even right there for all the front of the house, which is another big thing people don't realize. It sucks when you have 20 covers and everybody else has 35, because you're literally looking at other coworkers getting an extra 3-4 tables right there.
Yep.
And if you're just empty, that's on the host. It's not on you. It's just not seeing. And every restaurant's got that kind of bad station that people don't really want to sit.
Sure.
That does happen, but when you get that station, you're going to be a little slower than everybody else. But when you're in one of the big stations and you're getting bent over, you want that good host, and they make the whole ship run straight. If they're good, you're good.
Really, I'm thinking of the hosts that I've worked with. The ones that did the best job when I was at Sarah Beth's in New York, I had, for my Saturday brunch, it was usually 2 or 3 hosts at the host stand. And I had a pair of them, Matt, who was a mid-20-something improv comedian, and then Romaine, who was a mid-20s Trinidadi girl who did not put up with your nonsense and was just an absolute pleasure to have at that host stand, because the 2 of them were very good about reading the room and actually being accurate with when they think tables actually will be up.
Yeah.
And so then quoting you a time of 20 minutes and, hey, it's 18, there's your table, being able to consistently, just a couple minutes right before the quoted time, be able to get them in, not tell half a dozen people it's going to be 10 minutes and it's 5 for the first one, it's 7 for the next one, it's 18 for the next one. Really, and part of that was communication both between themselves and the bussers, and just saying, hey, I've got a 6, I've got an 8 top, we need to figure out, or I just all straight deuces, give me whatever 2s you can. It is communication and really awareness, and it is hard to teach either of those skills. So when they come naturally, you really got to support that.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, I've worked with some great hostesses and hosts. They just did a fantastic job, and they made my night, whether I was serving or behind the bar, just so much easier. And that being said, too, when you're on a wait and your hosts are like, hey, we have, if they will point out the bar, just say, hey, we have the bar right here. You can order some drinks. If there's seats available, you can order an appetizer while you're waiting, and we'll just transfer all that over to the table.
Absolutely.
You just making service flow and not having a big.
And they would even, my hosts there would frequently, if there were a number of kids in the waiting area, get drinks for the kids.
Yeah.
It's a really pretty simple, to hand them an apple juice or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. It really, I mean, just, hey, they're just walking around and go, hey, I got 3 kids in the bar. And it's like, here you go, and just get back to work.
Yeah.
Because, they're busy. And when you always have servers going up, what's coming up, what's next and stuff, and they're just getting in the way. That's one thing that bothers me in this current setting in restaurants and such. We tip out the hosts. I'm not saying they don't deserve it. They absolutely do. But when you see the people getting more tables than other tables, that there's people, hey,
yeah,
here's 20, $30, seat me a little more. Cause they know that 20, $30 is going to go towards making 200 or 300. When I had, like I said, when I worked in the places with a good host, you were not allowed to give the host money. You were not allowed to tip them, and they would refuse the money. I mean, people like, hey, I'll give you $20 to seat me more tables. And they would actually tell the manager, hey, this guy's trying to pay me to get seated more. They ran the show, really. I mean, in a lot of restaurants, they're not held to that high esteem. They're not deemed as being that important. And those restaurants really drop the ball in that essence. They don't understand that the first person your guests meet are going to set the tone. If they're frazzled, if they're harried, if they're short, if they're not happy, and the people are like, okay, I mean, you get that vibe when you walk up to a place, the host smiling, hey, how you doing? Oh, you're this, okay, we've got your table, it'll be ready right now. Or, hey, you're a little bit early, your table will be ready in about 5 minutes. If you'd like to have a seat here or go to the bar and grab a drink. If they go, how are you doing? Okay, it's going to be a minute. And like, they just go back down to their screen. People don't realize how important that is just walking in. Side by side with hosts as a bartender, having a good door guy is huge. When you've got that guy who will talk to people, who will notice that they're drunk when they walk in and won't let them in. He will notice the problems and stuff before they enter the bar. I've worked with some very good ones. Gil down at Piper down in Salt Lake City is probably one of the best in that city. I mean, and he's flat out, he could take anybody, but he's like, I never got really good at this till I got a black belt with my mouth and could talk to people a lot better. But he was like, as soon as I learned that, job's easy.
Absolutely.
So yeah, hand in hand there, the door guy as well. They're your gateway into the bar. And if they're good, you're good. And if they're not, nights are rough.
Right. And I hadn't really thought about this. I guess I'll lump it in only because you mentioned it. Because not every place has it, but security guys, like working for a casino, it is important to have a good relationship with my security team, because when I need them, I will need them.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah,
I've always bought security dinner. It's like, oh, I want a burger. Yeah, I got it. Go ahead. Don't worry about it. Stuff like that. The security in a bar is huge, and you want them on your side, and they want to do their jobs. But the good ones will always take it outside. The bad ones will start the fight inside or continue the fight inside. And the good ones will also, hey, there's a problem over here, and 2 of them will go instead of 1, and one talks, one just stands.
Yep.
And that's it. I mean, I've seen the different ways that security runs. There's plans in place. People don't realize, like, this is how we deal with this. This is how we deal with this. There's all that going on with the security of a bar. It's not like outside professional security. It's actually that bar's professional security. Those guys and girls are paid a living wage to be security. And people don't realize that. Like when they see the female security, like, oh, what's she here for? And it's like, well, guys can't touch girls when they get in a fight. You just can't. I mean, that's a lot. They'll get a lawsuit from both of them right off the bat. Well, like, that guy grabbed me, and I've seen that happen. So when you got the girl, well, the security guard grabbed me, it's like, and she's a girl. So you can't do the sexual thing. But good security is huge.
Absolutely.
And I've had a lot of good security guys, and I've had a lot of scary security guys.
I would say probably the biggest security dude that I worked with, who was the head of security at the casino. I mean, 6'5", broad, just big guy. Was also, his skill was de-escalation. He had a very calm voice and a very calm demeanor. And he is like, okay, wait, let's talk about this. Let's figure out what's going on here. And Sure, he could pick you up and toss you out the door with one hand if he felt
Yeah.
like it. It didn't get to that usually, but
No.
it's also, hey, I mean, it's nice that you could back that up if you need to. But, really the way to do it though isn't being physical with any person that you have a
No.
problem with. It's being able to talk them down, diffuse the situation.
Like my buddy said, getting a black belt with his mouth.
Yep, that's it.
He's like, that's the biggest deal. And then he was always teaching our other security guys how to do that. And they were very good at it. One was too good at it, where he's like, oh, it's okay. And I'm like, no, it's not. He was in the ladies' room. He literally has to leave right now. He's saying goodbye to us. I'm like, no, you have to kick him out now. He can't hang out in the bar for another hour. He's like, he's okay. And I'm like, no, he's not. He's drunk. His first drink was a 252. I wouldn't serve him after that. He was in the ladies' room instead of the men's room, and he didn't know the difference. He needs to go. Also, this bouncer's nickname was Nice Guy Pat. So no, he was a really good guy, but you'd have to tell him that you actually have to be kind of stern now. I mean, it can swing, the gate can swing the other way sometimes a little too far, and it's like you're letting people get away with a little bit too much. So next up in the front, I mean, we're going to combine these two as well. I think it's going to be bussers/barbacks.
Yeah.
So when you've got a good busser or a good bussing crew, they go hand in hand with the host. They're always in communication. They know what, like, this table needs to be set for a 2, for a 3. They're not going to put extra plates on that you have to take off when you come out to a setting. They are on top of it. If you're not pre-bussing, by the way, for everyone out there, pre-bussing is what your server should be doing when you're eating. When you finish a plate, the server should be taking it away. Some places have rules where you don't take all the plates away till everyone's finished, yada, yada, yada. Still, there shouldn't be, your appetizer plate shouldn't be on the table when you're eating your entree. That is your server's job, not the bussers. Also, when your drinks get dropped off by someone else, that is your server either being too busy, which can occur, or just being lazy and telling the busser, hey, get them 4 Cokes. I mean, I've worked in places where people lean on the bussers like they're a dam, the Hoover Dam. Just like, you're doing everything except for, I'm just going to be a table captain and talk to my tables. Those people are horrible to work with, and those bussers get totally taken out of their game because they're literally back waiting one service section. When you're taking a busser off of their job, which is very important to get the tables reset, clean, dishware back to the dish room, etc., the busser like, hey, we're running out of silverware. And it's like, okay, go tell the dish room to wash all the silverware right now, and then we'll get some people on rolling it or getting it set for the next tables and all that. Barbacks are the same way. Little bit different job, but same thing. They're going to be cleaning off the bar for you a little bit. The good barbacks I've had, and as I've told you earlier, I had a couple, the Hillbone brothers, I had them at the Oyster Bar. There's 2 of them. They are twins, but they only had one job. Like, they never worked together. They never worked the same day. And they also wore the same name tag. So 90% of our staff didn't know they were twins.
How do you work 7 days a week? Like, well, I'm just really dedicated.
That was a big deal. They worked with me at that job for 6 years. Then they worked with me another job for 3 years. Then they worked with me at another job for 3 years. And they were just great. I mean, we're talking the barbacks that when you finish, you've got this much left in a vodka bottle and you turn around for another one, they're standing there with it in their hand to hand it to you. I mean, they're the ones, hey, I need a keg change, and they go down and that keg's back on in under 5 minutes. I mean, they're not down screwing around or anything like that. Your bar's always stocked. They just do a great job, and it makes your job that much easier. There's other guys and girls I've worked with as barbacks who've become bartenders since, and they're very good bartenders. But when they were barbacks, they were also very good. They were very attentive. They understood that it doesn't help me to go to people at the bar and say, hey, what do you want? Okay. And then come over and tell me what their order is, when I'm like, okay, I've got to make these 9 drinks first and talk to these 4 people first because they just walked up. So they're 15 minutes out. I'm like, if I get to them and say, hey, it'll be a minute, it'll be much quicker, but I'm not going to throw their drinks up because then everybody else at the bar is like, well, they got their drinks first.
No, I think the better move is to come to you as the bartender, like, can I pop any beers for you? Can I, like, is there something I could do to
and like if I needed help on drinks, I'm like, hey, pour me 3 drafts or pour me this or pour me that, I'm like, grab me 3 bottles, but I would ask for it. I was like, don't let the guest dictate what your job is. You know what your job is. And your response is, hey, can you grab me a couple of drinks? And it's just like, hey, I'm the bar back. The bartender will be down here in just a minute. Okay. We're a little bit busy right now. Right. And just to go back to your job, because they're always interrupting the bar back when they're doing dishes, when they're cleaning stuff up, it's like, hey, I need, they're like, ah.
I was actually about to say, sometimes though, even though it appears that you have a line and you're in the weeds, what the bar back needs to be doing is getting that glassware ready for you next, so you do not run out of that.
Yeah. I don't want to run out of glass. I don't want to run out of ice.
Correct.
Your best bar back show is when you break something in the ice. When I've done that before, or I've seen that done before, I mean, the bar back is there with another thing of ice, an empty container to do the other ice, pitchers of hot water that they can burn the ice faster with to get the glass out.
Exactly.
I mean, if you can do that turnaround in about 5 minutes, that's like Olympic gold level. I mean, anything 10 minutes is not bad. And when people say that's a long time, it's sometimes 50 gallons of ice. I mean, and you have to remove it all. You can't just say, oh, it's just on top. It's broken glass.
Oh, no, it's
you literally glass. Have to, if you just filled your ice bin up and you break a glass in at first shot, or something breaks, and you're just like, okay. And so you still have to make drinks out of the little thing they bring of ice, and then the bar back is just chugging through all this ice as fast as they can to get it cleaned out. You got to appreciate that work. And we do. I mean, you tip out bussers, you tip out bar backs. They're kind of the original tip out thing that we all had to deal with coming up. It wasn't like food runners in the kitchen. And I mean, everybody now, the Darden roll that Olive Garden Group started, where you tip out all of the employees because they don't want to have to pay the employees the money they're worth.
That's it.
Exactly. But no, bussers and bar backs, they're huge in restaurants. I mean, without them, you're just not running.
All right. Well, let's move to the back of the house, but actually let's take a real quick break here and we will get back to the kitchen. All right. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.